welcome to Four Stands Up. My name is Rod Gilbert. I am your host and compere for this evening. You look like a lovely young couple down the front. Is this your young lady? Fiancé, look at that. I tell you what, you were quick to correct me there, weren't you? How long have you been together?
2 years.
2 years? It's sort of sickening in a way, isn't it? See, I find it very hard to stay in a relationship that long. It's kind of... Because are your parents still together, you two? Is that...
Her mum's on her third.
Do you want to share a little bit with us? Lovely. No, because it's a lovely audience here in Greenwich, and I sound a bit like Nicholas Parsons now. I apologise for that. And there's also a great community of Radio 4 listeners around the world that might be able to help and things. So, your mother's on her third what? It's her first husband.
Okay, I've got a little brother. We've both got different dads.
You've got a little brother. You've both got different dads.
Not married to either of them.
Your mum's not married to either of the dads. Wow, what a slag. They'll cut the bow and it'll just sound like I'm saying what you're thinking. That's it. Welcome to the unfair world of radio, I'm afraid. So you come from I come from a broken home as well. So I know what it's like to be from that kind of background. Did you kind of know what was going on when you were younger? Did you know that there were different dads and things going? You did. Because my parents used to, it's quite common, I think, my parents used to try and protect the kids. They'd always have little code words, you know, little secretive conversations. It's quite common. Mine would, you know... No, it's like when you've got a dog. You know, you can't say vet, can you? You have to say, I'm going to take him to the VET to have his you-know-what's off. And you can't say walkies, can you? In front of a dog, you have to say, I'm going to take him for a WALK, don't you? And the clever ones get the hang of that, to be fair, But that's all I'm saying is my parents would do the same kind of thing. They had little code words for... Like, if we were in the house, me and my brother and my sister, they'd talk about the DIVORCE. You know, and we didn't really know what was going on. You know things are bad because of all the shouting and screaming, but we didn't know they were actually going to sign the papers. And I mean, the dog knew, don't get me wrong. Oh, he was all over the shop. He was devastated, he was. You should have seen his face when he found out he was adopted. He went mental. He'd been a good dog up to that point. After that, you couldn't get him to do anything. Honestly, he had behavioural difficulty. You tell him to... He'd do the opposite of anything you told him. You tell him to sit, he'd stand. You tell him to stay, he'd go. You'd throw something, he'd go fetch. You'd go fetch it yourself. You're not even my real dad. It's true. He was 11 years old, that dog. Can anybody beat that? 14. Did you really have a 14-year-old dog? So you win. Is it still alive? No. It's a short-lived victory, that wasn't it? Did you start to look like him? No, I'm not saying you look like a dog. They do. People say dogs in their own start to look. It happened in our house with our dog. Not with me, but with my dad. The dog and my dad, honestly, they started to look more and more... By the end, you couldn't really tell them apart, to be honest. No, they were almost identical. If they were in the house at the same time, my dad would wear this little hat with his name on. So you knew which one was him, and it became a real problem for my mother. It's a horrible image, I know, it only happened a few times. Well, the dog, he was an opportunist. My dad would go off to work, he'd stick the hat on and he'd go upstairs, you know, this is what... I know it's unpleasant. It's unpleasant talking about these things. The only reason I'm telling you this is that my little brother was 4 and we never really knew. No, who the father was, not 100%. Was it the dog? Was it my dad? In the end, we had to have a DNA test to establish who the father was. The results came back. It turned out the dog was the father. The dog was my brother's dad. I know it sounds daft, but it's absolutely true. The dog was my brother's... And, of course, you know what the atmosphere is like when your parents are splitting up. It's bad enough anyway, but now everybody's bickering and... My mother's angry with the dog for tricking her, you know, my dad's having to go at the dog for wearing his hat. There's all hair in it. He's angry, you know. My brother's having a go at everyone. He's like, why didn't you tell me? You all knew. Everybody's been laughing behind my back. Rod, you're my brother. You should have told me. I said, we didn't know, did we? We had our suspicions, Patch, but we didn't know for crying out loud. I said, you've got to admit you do bury a lot of stuff. Found your Walkman in the garden again the other day, and it can't come as a big surprise. You can't walk past a tree, you never use a towel, and you hate Guy Fawkes night. Come on. Look on the bright side. You've a good ear, you can lick your own bits, and you've never lost at Frisbee. Cheer up. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for your first act this evening? Please welcome her all the way to the stage. Absolutely lovely, wonderfully funny Miss Danielle Ward.
Hello. So I recently found out that I'm the second most famous person who's ever been to my school. Because what it is like, a lot of people in comedy went to like really posh schools, but I went to a really rough comprehensive. It's not much of an accolade. It's a little bit like finding out you're the least aggressive wasting disease. Because the thing is, I honestly went to a really rough school. I don't know if any of you are on Facebook at all. And you can be friends with the people that you hated at school, can't you? And laugh at their photos and pillage their lives for material. Anyway, but yeah, one of the girls from my school recently, her status update recently genuinely said, Emily is slightly annoyed at being glassed in the face at a wedding. Only slightly annoyed. That's the best bit. Like, she was half expecting it. It's amazing. So, because I got this email from my school, and I said, well, if I'm the second most famous person who's ever been to my school, who's the most famous person? And it turns out that it's Sheila Chipperfield. Yeah. Daughter of the Chipperfields. From Out of the Chipperfield Circus. No, my favourite thing I ever saw on telly was a documentary about people who had sex with their own pets. No, I say people, I'm pretty sure every single one of them was American. But there was a man on there who is famous for marrying his own horse. I don't know if you know who he is. He's really... If he'd have gone to my school, he'd have won hands down. That's how famous he is. And he's on there, and he's talking about his decision to marry his horse because he's really in love with her. And he says, I can't wait to marry my horse. It's going to be amazing. We're getting married in an unofficial ceremony. Really? You've decided against the church wedding, have you? Met the vicar, thought neither of us are traditionalists. I don't want a church wedding because I don't believe in God. My wife doesn't want a church wedding because she is a horse. It's amazing. No, like, it's really sad. If you ever see this documentary, it's really sad because the day after he marries the horse dies. Yeah, his new bride dies. It's like on Her Majesty's Secret Service. But, the horse isn't shot through the face by some Russians. Number 3 on the list of famous people from my old school is a girl who died in an earthquake. Because she'd been on the news. Oh yeah, those ladies really smashed that glass ceiling. Number 5 on the list, and this is my favourite, this is someone from my actual year. Number 5 on the list is someone who is famous because their auntie had sex with Nicholas Lyndhurst. Oh yeah. But like, it's weird because you don't expect to hear from your school, and you look back on your school years as I did, and like, it's a time of first, you know, you have your first crush and you have your first kiss. I saw my first dead body at school. I don't know if you had the Gideon's Bible people who would come round to your school when you were younger. Yeah, and like, you'd be 12 or 13 years old and the Gideon's Bible people would give out a copy of the Bible to everybody, and we had this. And we were like 12 or 13, assembly, 200 people in assembly, 200 kids. And the head Gideon's Bible man came out and he'd given us all a copy of the Bible, and he said, I want you to take this Bible home and read it. And if just a few of you can let God into your lives will be much richer for it. Because I love God and God loves me and he'll reward me for my devotion. And then he sat down in a chair, slumped forward, and died. This is a true story. Absolutely, the silence came over the assembly hall until like this little voice piped up, I think he's dead. Obviously, being children, we had to find out for ourselves. So people started rushing forward. It got to the point, like, everybody was running forward. The teachers were standing there in some kind of 1980s football riot type stance. Just like this poor man's dying moments weren't spent being frisked by the local Artful Dodger. You know, at least he died doing what he loved. Spreading the word, not being touched by kids. Gideon's not Catholic, remember? But the weirdest thing about this story is a true story. The weirdest thing is our teachers were so scared of us finding out about death in this manner that they point blank refused to acknowledge that he'd actually died. Now, the ambulance turned up and they zipped him into a body bag. Now, we'd all seen Casualty. We know that's not a good sign. So they zipped him and they took him away. And we were going to our teachers, it's awful, isn't it? Like that man who died in assembly. Our teachers were going, no, he's not dead. No, he's not dead, he's just a little bit ill. A little bit ill, he'll be fine. You think a little bit ill? He's not as ill as he's ever likely to get, surely. Because I sometimes worry that I'm too cynical. This is my big worry in life, that people think that I'm too cynical. I try and see the glass as being half full, but it's half full of sick and tears. Never going to be on Radio 4. Thanks very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Danielle Ward! How many bags of crisps have you had on that table down there? Have you had all of those bags of crisps? Have you? What, you got 5 bags of crisps you have eaten since you've been here, have you? Are you worried about obesity? You've just eaten 5 packets of crisps. Sorry? You're still hungry? After 5... See, this is what... Do you know what it is? This is the thing. You know what the problem is all this... Everything's marketed and advertised at us, isn't it? We haven't got a hope. You don't stand a chance. You're just a victim, a pawn in their game. That's what you are. It's true, and everybody, kids, they're all I've got a niece and nephew, they're both massive. He was bigger than me at 11 weeks, honestly. It's true, I get his hand-me-downs. He was christened in this top. It's true, they're both huge. This woman came round to I was round at my sister's house. No, I was round at my sister's where my niece and nephew live, and this woman came round and accused my nephew of being a hoodie. Honestly, she said he's been causing trouble in the street and he's been up to no good. And I said, bring him to the door, wheel him out, come on, get him out here. We brought him out. I said, look at him, a hoodie, look at the size of his head. Let's try and get his top on now, let's try and get his hood up, the 3 of us, come on, the 3 of us. I had my foot in his face for leverage. He shaved his head, rubbed butter on his ears. We did get his hood up, his arms went straight up in the air. Nothing. I said, what's he been doing? Starting Mexican waves in your street? Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for your next act of the evening? Give it up, welcome him all the way to the stage, it's Doc Brown!
Bit of hip-hop there, just to get you acclimatized. Believe it or not, I rap for a living. My name is Doc Brown. Welcome to the show. I'm not just a rapper anymore, clearly, I'm diversifying. I'm trying to add another string to my, for want of a better word, bolt through comedy, okay? I basically earn a crust doing a mixture of music and youth work. In the summer just gone, in the build-up to the Olympics, I was working with Sport Relief, which is like it's like a wing of Comic Relief. And I was recording these kind of 1-minute rap videos, basically pushing new sports to kids from the hood who tend to be into the same old, football, basketball, boxing, this kind of thing, and we were really trying to broaden their horizons, by promoting some alternative pursuits, like curling, badminton, these kinds of things. I'll give you an example of the kind of thing I mean, because I like to think of rap, it's not just about entertainment, it's about giving something back, to the kids. But anyway, Now we've all seen soccer and boxing compete for the #1 sport, keeping kids off the street. But I got something new, something out of the blue, that could make a champion out of you and your crew. Now I know you don't want a sport to make you look less hard. Yo, ain't nothing soft about equestrian dressage. Trust me, this is a challenge that I know you'll like. Just imagine you're jumping on a stolen motorbike and you're riding your iron horse through an obstacle course. Except of course it's not an iron horse, it's just a horse. And you get it to jump, dance and twirl, just like raving in the club with a really ugly girl. Impress the judges, amaze your friends, and well done, that's an 8 out of 10. Yay! So, you know, I think that could take off with the kids, you know. Being on the road a lot, doing a lot of gigs, you know, it can really put a strain on a relationship if you're in one. My ex-girlfriend left me over that stuff, you know? And some other stuff. I got dumped, walked out on a girl called Vicky. Yeah, Vicky. Yeah, I didn't take it well, you know. I was a bad dumpy, frankly. I did a lot of those silly things that dump people tend to do sometimes, you know, the incessant stalking, the relentless self-abuse, the, you know, desperate voicemails. You know, I can remember one voicemail in particular I left. It's so embarrassing to think about, and it's really almost too cringeworthy to even relate to a room full of strangers, let alone a world full of listeners, you know. But for the sake of entertainment, I'd like to recreate that voicemail for you right here, right now, if I may. Come on, Vicky, pick up the phone, Vicky, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone, Vicky. Pick it up. Pick it up the phone. Oh, voicemail again. You know what? I'm glad it's voicemail this time, Vicky, because, you know, for once in your life, you know what? I just want you to sit down, shut up, and just listen to me, Vicky. Listen to me. Vicky, why'd you leave me? Is it because I used to shout Sandra every night in deep sleep? It's just a childhood dream, babe. I thought I explained my Spanish au pair. Sandra was her name. Well, it was Miquita Sanchez, but you know how sometimes you get English versions of foreign names? But the English version of her name was Sandra. Vicky, why'd you leave me? Is it because you caught me whacking off that time to GMTV? I was going through a Lorraine Kelly phase. It's over now, I'm back into Nigella these days. And you know, if I'd have known you was in the house, I never would have... You know what, anyway, it's Nigella, that's not sordid, you know, it's about food preparation. Vicky, why'd you leave me? Is it because I'd leave the toilet seat up every time I pee? Actually, it's not selfish to not put it down. I kept it up in case my mates came round, because, you know, that's the kind of guy I am, Vicky. I mean, you know me, I'm a generous guy, you know, I live to give. I mean, come on, Vicky. Vicky, why'd you leave me? Are you still sore about your birthday gift? I gave you VD. I could have got it shaking hands with the homeless. You don't know. You know me. I love a hobo. I mean, you know my style, Vicky. I can't walk past a tramp on the street without giving him a quid, you know, shaking his hand. That's just me, you know. But my GP said I could have got it from there. Vicky, why'd you leave me? I just don't understand. I really thought I was a wonderful man. I said, Vicky, why'd you leave me? I just don't understand. You lost yourself a really wonderful man. Vicky, why'd you leave me? Lesbian. Thanks very much. My name is Doc Brown. Have a good evening.
One more time to Doc Brown. Oh, wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. Now, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for your next act? Please give it up for the wonderful Robin Ince.
I've got this kind of new theory. That's right. I always like coming up with theories, and one of the things that I worry about most is I don't think that in this country people are as stupid as TV wants you to be, right? TV insists that everyone is an idiot, right? It's like things like Trinny and Susanna. I don't know if you know, that was on ITV in the summer, and it didn't do very well. It had quite bad viewing figures. And you might hope that ITV would look at those viewing figures and go, oh, I see why no one's watching it. It's really banal. It's really, really banal. But they won't. They'll look at it and they go, it's not banal enough. No one's watching. It's not banal enough. Call Gok Wan immediately. This is the only way out of it, is to make a programme in which lots of women in their early 40s are just standing there weeping about their fat elbows, going, oh, Gok Wan, look at my elbows. They're so fat. I have the fattest elbows in town. All the local children throw stones at my house and call me fatty, fatty elbow lady. What can I do? Wear a longer cardigan. Oh, thank you, Gok Wan, thank you. You saved me. And there is so much rubbish, I'm telling you, but every now and again there's something great, right? One of my favourite shows, there is a show called The Big Questions on BBC One on a Sunday morning, coming quite frequently live from Leicester. It's basically Nicky Campbell going to the audience and saying things like, what do you think? I think there's too many. Too many of what? I don't know. Right, it's that kind of show. But there was one just glorious episode. They had on it Richard Dawkins, Peter Tatchell, the human rights campaigner, and a woman from the Pentecostal church. Suffice to say, they didn't all get on, right? And this one marvellous moment, the woman from the Pentecostal church pointed to Peter Tatchell and went, now he has chosen to be gay. And then I went over to Richard Dawkins, who went, the great thing about an opinion like that is we can totally ignore it. I want to hear that more on television. I'm sorry, you know absolutely nothing. Please leave. Thank you very much. Go back to your word search in the Daily Mail. You shall enjoy it. I believe GNU is hidden in there somewhere. I think, you know, this is what... It's like, I love... There's a guy called Carl Sagan. I don't know if any of you know of Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan was a great astronomer. He did a fantastic series called Cosmos. And when you watch him, you just feel alive and great. At the opening of Cosmos, he comes out and he goes, the cosmos is everything there is, everything there was, and everything there ever will be. We are all made of star stuff. The stuff of us is the stuff of the stars, right? Beautiful, beautiful things. But my favourite moment is at the beginning of episode 7, where, I know that's a bit autistic, isn't it? At the beginning of episode 7, he goes, to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first create the universe. And, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing. And it also explains why his recipe book never really sold. But I found out, because I watched this documentary, Cosmos, I recommend it. It's fantastic. There's things on it like, I now have a second favourite astronomer. I used to just have a list of one. Now I have 2. There was a man called Tycho Brahe, right? For those of you who don't know him, he was amazing. The reason I admire him is, number one, with the naked eye, he discovered about the expansion of the universe and the movement of the stars. But 2, he had a nose made of gold, right? Because he'd lost his original nose in a duel over mathematical equations, right? Now, how often do we see that on the streets anymore? We just don't see it, do we? Oi, mate, no way is that the solution to Fermat's last theorem. I'm taking your nose, right? But even better than that, he was a bon viveur, and because he was a bon viveur, he owned a dwarf and an elk to entertain him, right? This is true. And his elk died when he got it drunk and it fell downstairs, right? How much do you want to turn on the sky at night just see Patrick Moore pinned under a deer going, oh dear, I think I gave him too much absinthe. Brian May, could you lift him off? Right, that's what... Because there are so many joyous things. Like, you know, the human genome has been mapped now. That's fantastic. It was only a little over 100 years ago where a greedy, pea-eating monk called Gregor Mendel discovered the nature of genetics. And it was amazing. Just a monk with some peas, he discovered about genetics. And there he was, working on his own, trying to remember the different things about genes, and very hard. He had to use a nursery rhyme system quite often. For instance, this is one of the ways that he remembered different genetic properties. I eat my peas with honey. I've done it all my life. It makes the peas taste funny, but I think it's a recessive gene. See, because there are great things out there, and sometimes you do think people are idiots. There are moments where you want to believe in the goodness of humanity, and then maybe you're trapped on a train, and you're opposite, as I was once between Hereford and Oxford. I was trapped opposite this person who ended every single sentence with the phrase, do you know what I mean? Right, one of my least... I hate that as a verbal tick. That, and people who can't find a simile. I find that very annoying. You know, people just go, I went to the pub, like, and I got really drunk, like, and I met this girl, like, and we went back to her house. Like what? Like, what were any of these things like? Were you like a gouty hippo? Was she like a giraffe in a headscarf? Where are your similes? If literature was like that, it would be rubbish. You just picked up Moby Dick and it just went, and the whale came out of the water, like, and... Captain Ahab, I mean, he was so like, you know, and the crew were like, yeah, just, where are your similes, lazy Herman Melville? It's just, but this one, do you know what I mean? 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 And then when I got off the train at Oxford, I started to think, why is it people who most often use the phrase, do you know what I mean, are the people least likely to preface it with anything that's so scientifically or philosophically bamboozling that the final words are required, right? Normally someone going, I was down this back alley, right, leaning against this wall, sicking up my chips, and this bloke came along, tried to fill me up. Do you know what I mean? I've got a reasonably vivid image. Tell me more about this wall, you enigma. Well, it was like, never mind, never mind. But that's the thing, I blame the media most of all. I think this is the problem. The media has a desperation to make us feel that we are living in the worst time ever, right? Oh, isn't life rubbish? All the great things we've got now, all the entertainment, all the, you know, we live for longer, most of us can see the sea, there are so many great things, and yet we look at every new innovation and it becomes rubbish. If you went back 50 years, just 50 years, and showed someone a mobile phone, they go, well, what's that? And they go, right, what you do is you type in a number, speak to someone in Africa, Asia, North America, anywhere in the world. But there's no lead or anything. No. Just uses it, goes up to satellites for all man. It's going to be amazing. Wow, that's incredible. The future really is going to be amazing, isn't it? Flash forward to 2008, it's just loads of people going, this mobile phone's a piece of rubbish. I can't believe it. I'm 50 miles underground in a lead-lined box and I can't get a signal. I hate the future, right? But that's what we've got to. How was your weekend? Oh, don't even ask. It was a nightmare. We had to go shopping to buy things that we wanted with money that we had. Imagine what the parking was like. Oh, and we had to queue for potpourri. It's just... Got anything nice coming up? No, next week we've got to go on holiday, somewhere we've always dreamed of going to. That involves packing and queuing. Oh, when will the nightmare of this luxury end? They sent us to Heathrow Terminal 5 and they lost our luggage. I had to rebuy my underpants in Paris. The pain, the pain, the pain. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the show. You have been listening to Four Stands Up with Daniel Ward, Doc Brown, Robin Ince. I'm Rob Gilbert. This was Four Stands Up. The producer was Salusha Gilani. Thank you very, very much. Good night.